Before I show you some slightly irregular verbs, I want to share a couple of vocabulary words with you. You'll see why in a few seconds. In French, the word for a boot that nearly reaches your knee is une botte. However, the word in French for a boot that just covers your ankle is une bottine. And as you're about to see, la bottine is going to figure frequently in today's lesson. Let's take a look at the infinitive acheter, to buy. To conjugate it, in the present tense, we identify the root in the same way as before. We draw out our grid with the subject pronouns already in place. Good news! The verb endings are the same ones as with regular ER verbs in the present tense. Now, when we copy the root of the verb, notice that it only works in two forms, first person and second person plural, the nous and vous forms. There's a slightly different root that completes the remaining verb forms. It has a grave accent. When I look at the grid with its root that resembles the root in the infinitive in two forms, and its slightly irregular root in the other four forms, it reminds me of something. That's right, une bottine. Now, whenever I have to conjugate the verb acheter, I think of the bottine and the four forms of the verb that are slightly different. And it's not just the verb acheter that follows the bottine pattern. Here are a few more common ones that have slightly irregular roots in four forms of the conjugated verb. Let's look at another. Compléter. We identify the root in the same way as always, and we prepare the grid. Once again, this root, C-O-M-P-L-E acute T, only works with two forms, the same two forms, first and second person plural, and not in the other four forms. The slightly irregular root once again requires a grave accent. And, once again, I'm reminded of the bottine pattern. Here are a few more common verbs that require an acute accent in two forms and a grave accent in four forms. The verb jeter, to throw, is also slightly irregular, and it also follows the bottine pattern. Here's its root. Here's the grid. As you can guess, the identified root only works with two forms, and the remaining four forms have a double letter T. The verb appeler follows the bottine pattern. Here's its root. Here's the grid. And here's the root in the nous and vous forms. Care to take a guess at what the slightly irregular root looks like? That's right, double letter L's throughout. The last series of verbs that follow the bottine pattern are like this verb, nettoyer, to clean. Identifying the root and laying out the grid are normal. The regular root completes the first and second person plural forms, and the slightly irregular root with the letter I instead of the letter Y rounds out the remaining four forms thanks to the bottine pattern. Here are a few common verbs that take the letter I instead of the letter Y according to the bottine pattern. So there you have it. Who knew that an ankle boot could help you conjugate verbs in French?